next time I try. And even if I still can't do it, yeah, you know that I'm gonna stick to it. Yes, it's all about going through it, and I'm gonna tell you why. Whoopsie, whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies are what it takes to get better and better every day. Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies, help me look, see, I'm better at this today. Woo! Whoopsies, 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 whoopsies. I'm a little embarrassed when I look at my drawing compared to this. I'm just not getting anywhere with this. It makes me wanna hide. Aw, don't be embarrassed. Don't hide. You should have seen mine the first time I tried. It took a lot of whoopsies to look this way.
No one's perfect on their first day. Whoopsie.
Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies are what it takes to get better and better every day. Whoopsies, 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 whoopsies.
Well, what about this? I want to jump rope, but nope, I just can't do it.
Well, not yet. Come on and practice with me. You'll see there's nothing to it.
Whoa! Whoopsie.
Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies, help me look, see, I'm better at this today. Woo!
It was only a dream, the waves of evil crashing over us. It was only a weak and faithful scream beneath the battlements. I know it's hard to follow before it's too late. Wake up, my love, please don't give up on me. It's hard. Wake up. It was only a dream, the waves of evil crashing over us. It was only a weak and faithful scream beneath the battlements. But I know it's hard to follow before it's too dark. Wake up, my love, please don't give up on me.
There we... Oh, God. Ah, where's my coffee? Okay. Alright. It's gonna be one of those days, I guess, you guys. I'm sorry. Holy shit, alright. Oh, man, I should have just grabbed some tequila instead. I don't need coffee right now. I need some tequila. Sorry, guys. Oh, man. Okay, well, hi. Welcome to the Root Kid stream, where whoopsies are okay. All right, we're all making mistakes here. All right, everyone from the top down. So, a quick recap. If you go to our site, we give away free stuff. On top of all the free stuff we're teaching, we're better than you going to college. We're better than any other boot camp. It's not even a comparison. It's quite laughable what the other boot camps teach you. So learn this instead. On top of all the free stuff we're doing, mystery giveaway, sign up, press this button, verify that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel and stuff, and then you'll be entered to win one of our merch items. What it is, I don't even know. We'll figure it out together on Sunday. Also, there's a link in... No, there's no tequila in my coffee, but I'm about to sneak some in there, right? There's a link in the description of the video and in the Twitch About Us area somewhere there. If you click on that, you'll be sent here, where you can donate to us. And all donations are being matched 1-for-1 for the first 10,000 donations. Additionally, depending on how much you donate, you can unlock rewards, like our Epic stickers, our Epic Collab t-shirt, or this Epic sweater right here, all right? Look at this. You wear the sweater, there's a chance that it will automatically increase your intelligence by 10. All right? So, hey, maybe this is what you need in order to pass the exam. All right? Maybe. I don't know. I can't claim it has magical powers, but it could. You won't know until you have one. That's all I gotta say. Depending on how much we get donated, we have pillars along the way, like streaming for 24 hours straight, shaving my head here live on stream, and... Okay, let's all say it together for everyone that's been watching so far. The one no one wants to see. Yeah, that's right. Me shaving my beard here live on stream. That's right. You're excited for today's class for some reason. Well, hopefully it's because you got to laugh at me messing up and the mic muted the whole time, alright? Well, we fixed all of that. Maybe we'll just sit around and drink today. That sounds like a great choice. It is Wednesday, right? Yeah. Alright, so let's dive into our code, but I guess before we do that, we're gonna go ahead and make fun of one of you guys, alright? We have a volunteer. Where's Cookies and Milk? Cookies and Milk has volunteered to be made fun of. Not really, we're not gonna make fun of him, alright? Maybe just a little bit. This is not what he signed up for. Alright, I'm gonna make this Cookie and Milk.py. Alright, so this is some of the code that he turned in. Right? This is some of the code that he turned in as a part of the challenge. And I just want to go over it with you guys and, you know, talk about it because it's pretty similar to what a lot of you guys are turning in. And I just want to point some stuff out so you guys are tracking it and, you know, how to finish up the challenge. Alright? So, you can see here we got our fightable class. Nothing's really been changed. And then we got our hero. Mob's pretty much the same. And then there's this new inventory concept. Now, this inventory concept it works. It's there. It functions. I see kind of what's being done. You know, everything's going to be pretty much the... sword is going to just have damage assigned to it. Crossbow is just going to have damage assigned to it. The final piece that's missing here, so make sure you guys are including this, is, for example, I didn't even realize this part. So, part number 1, this right here is... I think this might work. It's kind of weird, but it might work. Kind of. Not real. No. Ignore this part because I didn't see that. There's something else I want to cover. But remember, if you're going to make a new object from a class, you're just going to do that, and then you got to assign it to something. So this would be self.inventory. How are these different? This has a lowercase I. All right, this one has a capitalized I. All right, that's the usual pattern for a class and an object, especially if it's like a one-time usage thing. It'll be capital and then lowercase. So this is what we want right here. And why we don't pass anything in here, because we don't pass anything in here in the init section except for self. But self is already done for us, so we don't have to mess with self at all. It's already done for us. Now that we've done that, we have access to things like self.inventory.armor, armor, oh, it's copying fightable armor, base def, etc, 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 which is really, really great. All right, we have access to all these things. So another thing is inheritance. Just because you can inherit from something doesn't mean you should do it, because in this case, your inventory would never be a fightable NPC. All right, would never be a fightable NPC. So you wouldn't really want to inherit from it. Now, as you can see, like, nothing's wrong. Nothing's gonna break if you do that. It's just gonna add a lot of extra code and clunkiness and things you just don't need. All right, so make sure you're looking around, and if you are, I'm guessing he just copied and pasted from somewhere else. That's fine. You can do that. Copy and paste, steal your own code. If you do that, you know, just make sure that you do like a little small glance over to see if there's any things that you can delete that aren't really relevant. So fightable here, we would want to just delete. The last piece of this was, the assignment was to make it so your weapon modifies your damage. Now, this would work. This would work. All right, it's not the most ideal way, because if we go to our inventory, for example, we have inventory.primary weapon. I think it's not showing up because this is below. So let me move this above the heroes class. There we go. So now if I do self.inventory.primary weapon, we already have a primary weapon here. So if you do find yourself making another one, just, I'm not going to say like you should only have this one, because that may not be true all the time. But look at it, evaluate, and figure out, you know, do I need to really make another variable called primary weapon when I already have one like right here? All right, that's for you to answer. All right, but it was done this way, which we do have a primary weapon. This isn't currently linked to our inventory, so we're just going to assume when they get a new inventory, they will have a primary weapon, which is fine to assume that, because you're the one making these. You know what comes in the box when you manufacture an iPhone. You know, if you're Apple and you manufacture an iPhone, you know what's going to come in the box. Like, so you can assume, you know, what's going to be there. And then for the attack, this works, not what I was wanting you guys to do per se, because for example, this is modifying based off if they have a primary weapon, but it's not adding that primary weapon's damage to it. So make sure your modifier is not going off a static value, like 5. Static means it's hard-coded, you typed it in yourself. Use a dynamic value, which would be a variable. So if we do self.inventory.primary weapon, that would be more applicable to what we want here. So now your primary weapon, if it's true, if you do have a primary weapon, you'll do damage, your base attack times whatever your primary weapon is. All right, that makes sense. I don't know if cookies and cream came in the stream, but I just wanted to go over that a little bit. Now this is one way that you can do it. All right, this is one way you can do it. I'm going to show you guys how I would go about doing it, but again, it's all valid. As long as it works, it's good. But again, the more lazy you're potentially able to be, most likely it's going to be more dynamic. All right. There's also, I bring it up sometimes, occasionally, depending on what people ask in the Discord. There are concepts of under engineering and over engineering things. All right. Consumers get mad at both of these at all times. All right. You'll never make a consumer happy, so just do it to where you think it needs to be. What does under engineering mean? For example, if you buy something, let's say a pen, I don't know, a pen, a toothbrush, whatever. If it was under engineered, it may break relatively quickly, right? It may break relatively quickly, but they're very, very cheap. So you can just buy more. It's annoying, but you can just buy more. Or if something's over engineered, it will last forever, but it's most likely going to be very, 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 very expensive, but it will last forever. All right. And then there's the sweet spot in the middle. All right. The sweet spot in the middle is typically what you should always be aiming for, because under engineering means you threw it together really quick. It's kind of half in shambles. It works, but if you want to make any additions, it's gonna break things and it's gonna cost a lot to remake stuff. If you over engineer stuff, it means you're going to spend and waste a lot of time making sure every little thing is perfect, and you're never actually going to get very far in development because you're going to spend too much time, playing with how the button feels, that you're not going to spend any time about, how much ink should be in this pen and how fast the ink should be dispelled or anything like that, because you're too busy with making the perfect button click. All right. So you don't want to do that. Now, consumers get mad about this all the time because, for example, in your phones or other digital devices that you have, you will see this reflected. Specifically also in cars, because we all, maybe not all of us, but most of us here have messed with cars before, right? Cars are notorious for being over-engineered or under-engineered, or maybe perfectly in the middle. If it's under-engineered, you're going to see that it comes with a lot of problems. All right, there's maybe a lot of recalls for the car, etc., because things weren't done right. When it's over-engineered, it just works really well for a very, very long time, and that's usually a steamed car that someone wants. And then there's in the middle. Usually people call this design failures or design, I don't want to say design flaws, but they're designed to break at a certain mile or limit. Yes, things are done that way on purpose. Half to make more money on you, half because if it was designed more robustly, it would be more expensive, and then it would no longer be as accessible to as many people as previous. Because time is money. So the more time you spend on something, the more money it will end up costing. That makes sense? Does moving the class above hero interface with the inheritance hero has from the fightable class? Super only pulls from the class. Okay. By the class above, when I do say that earlier, when I did say that earlier, I mean the parent class. The parent class, if you think of a family tree, whoever's the parent of that child is above them in that family tree. So just because inventory is above hero doesn't mean that inventory is the parent. Fightable is the parent, because this is the parent class we gave it. So when you do super, it will still refer to fightable, and it will refer to this. Yeah, like the iPhone battery or software slowing down right before a new one comes out. Okay, software slowing down before a new one comes out, half is just because your device is naturally aging and it will become slower over time. The other half, that's someone being malicious, right? The whole Apple scandal thing that came out, that was just them being malicious, terrible people, all right? But naturally, your phone, your computer, your everything will become slower. The clock rate will slower because even though there's no moving parts, there is electricity flowing through them, and they do degrade. All right, electricity will degrade the parts in your computer over time. It will make stuff stop working or working functionally. So it's, you know, it's just like a tire, it wears down. The way he did it makes more sense to me at the moment, but I'll trust that how you change it actually works and rewatch to understand. Yeah, so this works. I'm going to show you guys the more proper way, the more, I guess, the more pro gamer move to go about it. All right. Are there any final questions before we go into that? I guess the one alteration that I would make if you did do it in a way like this is, I kind of pointed out earlier, make it so this is no longer a thing, and instead you do it right here. And yeah, it's not a true or false, but what it is instead is an integer value. And again, I guess I should say this, anything technically above 1 in integer value land will execute as a true, and anything at 0 will execute as a false. So if we ever wanted to, in this way, say they don't have a primary weapon, we would just set the value of the primary weapon's damage to 0. And then they would no longer have, this would no longer fire off. So the only issue, and it's only an issue if you're gonna make your game like big enough, because this will work. This is fine. It, depending on what features you're gonna add in your game, this may be perfect or this may be under engineered. I would say on the side of, if in our design docs we want to have something like drop loot that we can collect and put in our inventory, this would be under engineered. Because the first thing you should do is, when you're building something out like this, you should then ask yourself, looking at your design doc notes, how do I add something new to the inventory? And if we look here, there's not really a way to go about that. There's not really a way to go about that. So it's very, very limiting. Additionally, the other thing you can ask yourself, and you know, there's no right answer, is, should an inventory have primary slots, or should it just be holding things? And should the hero itself have like a primary weapon and a secondary weapon? So this concept, because if you're in the notion that it should be the hero that has a primary or secondary weapon, then it should be a part of the hero himself. But if you think maybe it should be a part of the inventory system, or maybe your concept in your head is like it's a backpack with like quick access slots, and so there would be like, you can have a primary weapon in the quick access slots of the inventory or the backpack, that would be valid too. All right, that's just something that you guys should definitely consult and think about in your head on how you would want to move forward. Let me see, I keep looking at this line 40 and what you changed the line 41 to, and that's what isn't clear to me. 40 and what was 41? Okay, so so before it was just set to true, they have a primary weapon, but technically the inventory system is tracking a primary weapon already. So we can remove this primary weapon, which is attached to hero, and instead use the one that's attached to inventory. So we could change this if statement, instead of doing self.primary weapon, we can do self.inventory inventory dot primary weapon. And this would work, because even though primary weapon is the damage, anything above at 1 or above will execute as true on an if statement in Python. All right. You can also do some logic here. If this is unclear for you, you could also just do, you know, if the primary weapon is greater than 0, this would also work just fine. So if your weapon ever has damage attached to it, which it does right here, it has whatever the sword's damage is, which is going to be this one, then it would work. I guess, okay, that's another issue right here, is the base attack damage. This will break right now because this blueprint is different than this blueprint, and they have no concept. This has no concept of base attack damage. So to solve this, we can remove self because it doesn't need to be there, and we can pass in base attack damage if we wanted, but then this again gets into too much commingling. Self dot, there we go. And this is going to be base attack defense, and this one's going to be defense base defense. There we go. So what just happened there? This had no concept of attack and defense at all, because this is a brand new blank blueprint, a blank new page. All it knew was sword, primary weapon, crossbow, and armor existed. So what we had to do is pass those two values, base attack and base defense, to this blueprint when an object's being created. So when we make an object, which we're making one right here, we're going to pass those two values to it because our hero has a base attack and a base defense attached to it, but and so it has to tell the inventory system. But this is where, again, this is, I would just say, is wrong, and is probably going to be wrong for 99% of use cases, because now you're commingling things. And what do I mean by that is your inventory. Think about it. Think about this pen. Think about real life objects, all right? Literally forget the code. Think about the real life version of it. This inventory doesn't have a concept of whether I'm alive or not, or how strong I can push, like push something, all right? This doesn't have any concept of that. And I should never be telling it any concept of that either. So same thing in this case, where our inventory or a backpack, in real life would never be able to comprehend or should never be calculating anything that's based off our personal stats, like base attack or base defense. Let's see here. It is now line 42 now, but he is pulling base attack. Why wouldn't using base attack times 5 make the primary weapons attached damage? This works. If you multiply by 5, there's nothing in here incorporating this weapon damage. If I change this damage here to 10,000, this one to 6,000, and this to 6,000, doesn't change the damage here. This is an if statement for logic. This will just tell me whether I should execute some code that's below or not. When I do execute that code, this code is always going to be base attack times 5. It's not attached to our weapons at all. So to make it attached to our weapons, we have to use our weapon itself in order to calculate the damage. But that's because the way they have it set up is the damage is directly attached to the weapon. If this is getting a little confusing, the answer is yes, it kind of is. And I'm going to show you guys next the more ideal solution for it. All right. Again, this would work. The only thing I would change is instead of calling this dot sword, I would just call it dot sword damage, because it's a little confusing when it's just sword, and this one like damage here, and this one damage here. But whatever, I'll progress. The point is, you know, your guys' ways of creating and thinking about this are valid ways that will work just fine. Right? They will work just fine. So just because it doesn't look like the way I'll be producing things doesn't mean it's not good. If it works, it works. All right, if it works, it works. The biggest issue with that one though is that if we wanted to pick up new items and add it to our inventory, we don't really have a way to do that right here. All right, so that's probably the biggest design flaw. So make sure you think about that. You know, just question. You know, again, yes, we're supposed to be here. The biggest thing for programming is question everything. Question everything. Is this right? Like why? If you don't know whether something is right or not, run it. Does it work? If it doesn't work, then it's not right. If it does work, then it is right. If you're in some type of middle gray area, the next question is, if you are asking yourself if this is the most correct or right way to do it, ask yourself then following up, why wouldn't this be the most correct way? Because if you can't answer that, then it's the most correct way at that point in time. All right? Don't get too caught up on correctness. Get caught up on making it work. So, and relating it to real world items. Because again, so like I said, the inventory system should be like a backpack where you're holding things. Something that's built in by default. So we're back at our normal code here. What's built in by default that can hold a lot of things is something like an array. You can make an inventory class, and that's not a bad idea, which I think we might end up doing here in a second. But if you can get away with just an array and adding things to the array or list in Python, right? You can just add things to it. It will work for most use cases, all right? It will work for most use cases. We're gonna copy suit with cookies and milk here, and we're gonna also make an inventory system, all right? So there's a lot of pros for an inventory system. So if you make an inventory class, congratulations, you've made an inventory system. And remember, every time we make a class, we're gonna give it a name, and then we're gonna do our underscore init. All right, give it a name and underscore init. Inside, we're gonna do self, press enter, and bam, we've made our class. All right, so we're gonna keep making lots and lots of classes. We're gonna go very heavy. I'm gonna open the window. It's very, very hot. All right, we're gonna make lots of classes. I personally wouldn't make as many classes as we're gonna make in here if I was making this game, but we're doing it because we need some practice, all right? So, inventory. We now have an inventory system. It doesn't do much, but it's here. Inventory could be attached to multiple things. It could be potentially the inventory someone has on themselves, like pockets or something. It could be for a backpack they have. There could be some loot that drops a better backpack. That would be an inventory system also. It can all be powered by this singular class, this one inventory class. So that's really, really useful. To hold things in an inventory, a great way to do that, like I said before, would just be an array. So I would say something like self.contains maybe. And this would be equal to an array. That would work. That would be valid. That would be just fine. So that works for now, I guess. Now we need ways to add things to our inventory. So of course, someone could just do inventory dot add because this is a list. So a list, if we go right here, self.contains dot add, or is it append? Sorry, dot append. Anyone could do that on the contains variable. That would be fine. That would be correct. But just in case we want to do some middleman logic, let's provide people with a add function. So we'll just call this add self dot contains. So they need to tell us what they want to add to their inventory. So we'll say new item, right? They're going to give us some type of new item they want to add to their inventory, and we'll just add that to the list, right? We'll just add that to the list. And additionally, you may want to take something out of the inventory. So if you want to take something out of the inventory, we're just going to say take out and self. Since we have a list, we need to know which item in the list they want. So that would be the index. All right, the index in that list of items they want. So we want that index, and then we'll just return them. Self.contains. And we could do this, but there's an issue right now. This will not remove an item out of the list. All right, this will not remove an item out of the list. So we could Google this. All right, we could Google this. You can also do your exploration by doing dot and then looking around. All right, we see there's a thing called remove. So that is a way you could remove it. There's also this other concept called pop. There we go. Yep. So you could do instead, you could do a dot remove and remove the item. We're going to do a dot pop. Let me see what remove. Does it remove? No, it doesn't. So, okay. So we're going to do dot pop instead. So what does dot pop do? Pop will remove the item from the list, but it's also going to return the item to us while it's removing it. So it's going to remove it out and give it to us. It's kind of like gross analogy. Popping a zit, all right? We've all done it, all right? We've all had zits, all right? When you pop a zit, it gives you some delicious juice, all right? All right, but it removes it from your body at the same time. The same concept here for pop, all right? Same concept here for pop. You guys won't forget that one, all right? So don't say yum. That's disgusting. What's wrong with you? That's why they had base attack pull for them. Self.inventory primary goes into the inventory first and then self primary. Yeah, Kamal, don't worry too much about it. I'm going to show you guys this way. This is the way I want you guys to go more so about it and like think about things, all right? Because remember, we're effectively copying real world things, real world concepts. If I have a backpack, right? Imagine this is a backpack, all right? It's a laptop bag, all right? I got this. This is something I can have. This is an object. There's a blueprint somewhere for it, all right? For whatever company it came from. This is going to be effectively my inventory system. I can open it, which we're not going to make a concept of opening and closing, which you could in your game. And maybe if you leave stuff open, you periodically lose items. But we can add stuff into the bag and we can take stuff out of the bag. So just like real life, those are actions you can take. So we should have the actions add and take out. And then it's going to contain items. It has a bunch of items in here. And this is going to be our contains, all right? Our list. It's just going to be a list of stuff that it contains. Because think about it. If you were to ask me what's in the bag, you know, I would list out all of the contents of the bag. You would just do that normally in real life. Same thing in programming and making these. You know, don't think too hard about them. Don't break your brain. Try to, if you can, grab the physical item or pull up your favorite game or something and like mess around with that object and see what it is and then reverse engineer it. This is all reverse engineering technically. So you can add that to your resume, all right? Because you're looking at something and you're figuring out how to make it in reverse order because it's already made and then you're trying to remake it. So this works for us as a general inventory system. It can contain things, we can add things to it, and we can remove things from it. All right, we can remove things from it. There's not too much more we have to do here. Let us see here. Make sure there's no questions. So the next thing I would do is think about it. When you're making your game, for example, with our weapons, all right? We want to have potentially swords, bows, daggers, machine guns, nuclear bombs. I don't know what you want to put in your game. But what are they all? What is the common factor? This is part of the abstract thinking that you need to start developing when you're programming. All right, abstract thinking is, you know, thinking about the common denominator of it all, and like what are the base core elements that are shared across all of them at a minimalistic level. They're all weapons. They're all different types of weapons. They all have some weight, some damage they can do. Maybe they have a certain range they can extend out to. So a sword will be obviously way shorter than an arrow, and a nuclear bomb, but they're all different types of weapons. All right. So if we're going to have all these different types of weapons, it might make sense for us to just make a weapons class. And from that weapons class, we can then generate different types of weapons like swords, bows, bombs, whatever you want to do. All right. So make sure you sit and like think about, you know, if you want to have a lot of these things in your games, think about how they're common denominators, or what common denominators they share. Same thing with our concepts with NPCs or mobs or whatever you want to call them, or fightable. You know, this is just some shared concept, abstract concept between our hero and our mobs. This is not what people think of at first, but they are shared. They are shared. Just checking the chat real quick. All right. So let's see here. Let's make a weapons class. So, as we've said a million times already, class. Name the class. We're going to call this weapon, right? Not plural weapons, because it's only going to be making one weapon at a time. It's not going to inherit from anything. Then, of course, we're going to do our def underscore init underscore self. And then we're going to, I'm just going to put pass in here. And we've made our weapons class, right? We made our weapons class. Now, go ahead and drop in the chat, what do you guys think a weapon should have as a part of it? All right, what should a weapon have a part of it? Go and list some characteristics of a weapon, and we'll go ahead and add them here. Breakability, durability, that would probably be a better term for it. We could definitely have durability. So let's go ahead and put self.durability. I have no clue if I spelt that correctly, but let's add that in. I'm not gonna put, we're not gonna make a whole durability logic system in here right now, but we'll just add it here just so you know you could add it and mess around with it. Damage, that's a good one. I was looking for that one. Let's do self.damage. I'm going to do the shorthand for it. And weapons need to have some type of default damage. You could have it set up as default damage. What if you want to change that? I mean, our nuke should do a lot more damage than other things, right? Maybe our sword is more durable than our bow. So these might be things where you want to use those optional or required parameters, right? Optional or required parameters. All right. So we go in here, maybe we want damage to be required. So we'll just do damage here without any equal sign and default value. But durability, we want this to be something that's optional. So we'll say durability is equal to 10 and put that in there, and then put this right here, right? Because remember, damage and self.damage are different variables, right? They're completely different. Damage is a new variable called damage. Self.damage is a variable that's attached to the object itself temporarily, or not temporary. It's a unique instance of the variable that's attached to the object. That's why it's here part of self. It's completely different. Even though they're called the same thing, this has the prefix of self, so it is different. Let's see, Milo says damage and durability. Perfect. We got those all. So we'll just go forward with this for now. We're not going to do durability system. I think on like one of the other examples we gave was like the sharpness and how you can have like sharpness affect your sword's quality over time. You can add that in here too. You could go and grab that code that we made from whatever, it was an Epic game, from whatever game we made before. I'm not going to add that in here right now. Now, nice plane. Can you guys hear that? Yeah, they're all coming over right now. So for our weapon, you could then add potentially things you can do with your weapon, like maybe sharpen it, break it, enhance it. I don't know. You could do potentially a lot of stuff with your weapon, but I think overall this might be fine for us. I think one last thing we might add is self.name, right? So a name for a weapon, and I'm gonna make it a required parameter called name that they have to give us in order to make this weapon. Why are we doing a name here? This is so when we show it off in their inventory system, when they're playing the game, or when they see it on the ground, it will display a name, all right? It will display a nice little name. So this could be very, very useful for us. How would it get attached to inventory to account for how much inventory space it takes? You could do that too. You could have like a weight system, or figure out like how much inventory space it takes up, etc., etc. We're not going to do that right now, right? We're not going to do that. We're not going to make those concepts right now, but that would be simply making some type of max weight on your inventory and then giving every weapon a weight and then calculating it in some type of probably an add here, so you can't add new items if the weight of your pack is going to be too much. All right, but we're not going to get into that right now. So let's go ahead and move forward with our weapons here. So we have inventory right now, but this is using our simple array. And by copying the good idea from Cookies and Milk, we made our own inventory system, all right? We built upon what they made and made a new inventory system. So if we want to make or use this new inventory system, we need to get rid of the list and put inventory here. And remember, to manufacture a object or to execute a class, you have to have the parentheses at the end. If you don't have the parentheses, you will not execute the function. You will not manufacture an object. All right, sweet. So we've now created an inventory. So by default, our hero will have a inventory. It's completely empty. So let's go ahead and do self.inventory.add. So let's add an item to their inventory by default. So when they first spawn into the game, they will get an item added to their inventory. What is it going to be? Well, we're going to give them a weapon. And remember, we have to add those parentheses in order to actually manufacture a weapon. Now, it's very handy. Let me close this one. There we go. All right. It's very handy because in VS Code, it will tell you what parameters are needed. So it's required for us to give it a name. It's required for us to give it some damage. And then there's durability, which is not required for us. This is an optional thing we can do. So in here, we'll go ahead and give this weapon a name. Let's say they spawn in with a rusty sword. All right. And the rusty sword by default will do, I don't know, 5 damage, right? 5 damage. And by default, they'll have this rusty sword equipped, right? They'll have the rusty sword equipped. Equipped? Why does that sound really weird? Am I saying it wrong? I feel like I'm saying it wrong. I don't know. Sweet. So now we can, equip it as his primary weapon. So with our current system, we would have to say self.inventory 0, because this is, whoops, sorry, self.inventory, I guess he would have to take it out, right? He has to take it out and hold it. So we would do self dot inventory dot take out, and he's going to take out the first item because there's only one item right now in the inventory. Equipped. Oh, just equipped. Yeah. I'm all types of messed up. So this is a way we can go about doing it. Now, you may notice there may be some issues right now with this inventory system. Most particular would be you might need to make a find function in here to find the item you want and figure out what position it is in your inventory. Because if we had more items, we wouldn't know which one is which. You can additionally use a dictionary if you would like, and that could be a potential solution. I can see pros and cons for both, but we're just going to use our list. You are really blurry. Is my camera unfocused? Yeah, it is. Come on, camera. All right, there we go. All right, so let us move forward. So we have our weapon. Now, this step right here could be deleted. It's technically an inefficiency. Mostly it's me showing you guys out how these concepts work. Technically, you could just automatically spawn your weapon right into the your primary weapon like slot. All right, totally up to you. This would be the more proper way to do it, but I just want to have this here so you guys kind of see the concept of the inventory system and how you would utilize it. Now that we have something as our primary weapon, by default, if self.primary weapon, if there is something that exists in primary weapon, then it will, this code below will execute. All right, this code below will execute, but we're not incorporating our primary weapon's damage right now. So let's say we just want to do something more like plus. Now we can do self.primary weapon dot, why are you not bringing up the options? I think I know why. What do we call it up here? Damage. All right. So this is really, really nice and really, really convenient. You might notice something a little weird going on right here. When you do dots at the end of this, nothing shows up. Why is that? When it usually always happens, because it doesn't know what type that variable is. At least right now, it doesn't know what type that variable is. It's kind of confused because, for example, if we look at take out, when we're taking something out of our inventory, it could be anything. It could be a string, it could be a list, it could be the weapon, it could be anything. Python doesn't know, or your editor doesn't know at this point in time. So when we're trying to do dot damage here, it's very confused on what's going on. So it can be, this is where typing could be very, very convenient. For example, primary weapon should always be a weapon. All right? Primary weapon should always be some type of weapon. So this is where typing becomes very, very convenient. And as we move forward, we're going to do more and more typing. All right, we're going to start introducing typing more and more. And again, that's going to be your colon. Whoops. After you write your variable, if you do colon space, you can put the type of variable it is here. Now, like I've said before, everything is an object in Python. So when we say int, that's an object. It has a class. All right. When I say string, that is an object. It has a class in Python. If this is supposed to be a weapon, we can just say weapon because it has a class. It's a type of variable in Python. So now that this is, we're basically saying that primary weapon is going to always be of type weapon, right? The variable's type is going to be of weapon. you'll see our editor now allows us to do dot, and it will bring up damage, durability, name, and everything else that's attached to it. All right, we've shown this off multiple times before. We're going to be doing it more and more moving forward, and it works with all the classes you're making, because classes are as valid as integer, list, string. You're effectively making brand new types of data, right, from nothing. All right, there's the pre-built ones like string, list, integer, float, and there's the ones you've customly handcrafted. All right, your hands are building calluses on them, you're working hard, and you just crafted these beautiful things. All right, so you can use them the exact same way. Any questions on that? So this should 100% work now. We have a rusty sword, and when we attack with our weapon here, it's going to do our base attack damage plus our primary weapons damage. All right, so if we save this and we go back to our game here, so this is our auto hitting game. Let's see. Okay, so it doesn't get confused between weapon and potion from your inventory. No, because this is primary weapon, so this will always be a weapon. All right, this will always be a weapon, so we can type it to be a weapon here. This is not required. Right, typing is never required. As you can see, we've barely used typing so far. It's not required. It's just a very convenient thing, because it makes you visually know what type of variable it's going to be, and your editor will know what type of variable it's supposed to be. So when you do stuff like dot, it gives you the correct, guesses on what you can do with it. If you don't have this here, right? If you don't have this here, you'll see if I do dot, the editor is not going to know what to do, but it doesn't mean those things don't exist. I can still do dot damage. It's just not going to autofill it for me, and it will still work just fine. All right, it will still just work just like normal, just like it's fine. So let me go ahead and add weapon here, because I want to have it auto predicting correctly. That's why we give it a type. Yes. So yes, if your potions shouldn't be a weapon, they should be different. Additionally, like for example, a good concept would be a potion or some food. Do you make a new class for potions? Do you make a new class for food? Maybe that's what you should do. But again, think more abstractly. Think at a more like comparison level. Food and potions are at their baseline, they're both consumables, right? You would consume them, or maybe you don't want to, but you have the option to. It could be poisonous food or poisonous potions. You can still consume them or have someone else consume them. They're all consumables. So maybe you should have a consumable class, and maybe that's good enough for your game, or maybe you then make a potion class and a food class that inherits from consumable, just kind of like how we have here fightable, and from fightable we inherit it into our heroes and our mobs. All right, it's kind of like let's see here. There we go. Come on. Image work for me, William. Let's just do this. So, whether you believe in evolution or not, that's not the point here. The point is this image. Flip it upside down, right? Flip it upside down. I can't flip it upside down. Maybe we can copy it. Will I be able to? Can I flip it in here? Rotate 180. There we go. And make it big. All right. animals are put into trees, right? Animals are put into trees and they're abstracted out. So certain animals that are close to each other will share like certain traits or whatever. You're effectively doing the same thing with classes, all right? And when we're talking about fightable and consumables, you basically got to do the same thing they're doing here in the real life. You know, all of these are vertebrates, right? It's kind of hard to read, but all of these animals on this tree are types of, or vertebras. That's the same as vertebrates, right? Yeah, they all have spines. So they all have spines. You could keep abstracting. This, again, it just all depends on what you're doing and what makes most sense. But you could, if you were making a game all about animals, make a class that's abstracted all the way up to the top called vertebrates, right? Or maybe there's one above it called animals. And then underneath that, you have vertebrates that inherit from animals. And underneath that, you have stuff like amphibians, all right? That's a class that inherits from invertebrates. Maybe another one that's going to be like birds or avis or whatever it's called. And another one that's called mammals, all right, that inherits from vertebrates. And then underneath that, you'll have, you know, I don't know, mammal section. Maybe you'll have elephants. There's lots of different types of elephants, but they are elephants at their core, and so on and so forth. So that type of thinking is just what, you know, need you guys to keep like trying to explore and think about and do, because it will make things easier for you as we move forward. Let's go ahead and run this game. So if I run it, bam. Oh, we went back to the start menu. There we go. I must have ran it twice. So you can see here, we are now killing goblins, and we are killing more goblins than we did before, because I think before we were able to kill 2 before dying, and now we can kill 4 goblins before we die. And of course, this is auto-playing itself, so we want to modify it later, so we can auto-fight a goblin, and then we can loot it, take any actions, and then auto-fight the next goblin, all right? Additionally, now that we are attacking here, and we properly made our inventory system with our primary weapon, and that primary weapon has a name, our game is now dynamic, all right? Remember, our goal is to be lazy, right? We want to be lazy. So if we make things proper, we can be lazier later. So what's common for people at first would be kind of like what Cookie showed here. You'll be making a sword, and you'll make a crossbow, and you'll make armor, and you'll make these individually. And maybe you'll call something like self armor name, and that armor will have some a name, and same thing with the sword, it will be sword.name, etc., etc. That is fine. That will work 100%. It will work. It's not an invalid way of doing things at all. It may not be the most lazy way you can go about doing it though, because now that we have everything boiled down to a class, to a class, and that class has .name attached to it, we can just always call the .name variable, and whether it's a nuke, a sword, or whatever, we'll print the name of it. And we no longer have to like keep track of names and do other like weird logic. So right here, we can say at the beginning, print player attacks with, and then we can do .format, and then we can say player dot primary weapon dot name. So if we run this now and press 0, you'll see that it says we're attacking with rusty sword. All right, maybe we should say with A. And now if we run this, we're attacking with the rusty sword. And this code is dynamic. It auto works. So if we were ever to change our primary weapon to something else, every weapon that we were ever going to hold requires a name. Why does it require a name? Well, we said right here, name is a required parameter to generate a weapon. It's not optional, it's required. So guaranteed, every name or every weapon will have a name. All right. So this will work and print out the name of every single weapon we have when we swing with it, when we attack with it. So now we can be lazier. We don't have to add a bunch of weird like custom logic for all these different names. It just works, which is the best part. All right. That makes sense? All right, we're gonna go on break and we'll continue our journey here. Before we go on break, again, I want to stress to you guys, what Cookie did here is good. It's valid. It works. All right, but this is where most of you guys will start off on, and that is fine. Write it out, make it work, have it, you know, do the things. But the next step after that is abstracting out, using those classes, trying to make things like this as much as possible. All right, that will be the next big step that you guys gotta do. And for most of you, it will be a challenge until the concept of classes click and kind of make sense to you. All right, because for most of you, I'm still going to assume that classes don't make too much sense. Like, you kind of get it, but you also kind of don't. So don't worry, we will keep going at it. We will keep giving examples, and we'll keep talking about classes. And hopefully one of the times when we talk about it, it finally clicks. All right. And when it does, you're immediately going to, it's quite amazing. Like, you'll immediately start programming like 50% better, pretty much immediately. It's actually, when I say click, like, it's literally like you transformed. It's pretty cool. All right. It's pretty cool. All right, so we'll see you guys in like 3 to 5 minutes. God. Again? Again? Okay, whatever. I'm so salty right now. I'm so salty. Recap. If you guys forgot who we are, we're Rootkit nonprofit org here in the US of A. We do lots of things for free, like 100 Days of Rootkit, where we're teaching you everything you need to know in order to get our comp sci cert, which is the best cert in the industry, alright? If you go over to our blog, on top of all the free things we're already doing, we got our Week 8 giveaway that's going on now. If you go over there to our Week 8 giveaway, press this green button here, you can enter the giveaway to win some prizes. What they will be, I don't know. We're going to poll on Sunday and see what they are. It's completely free. You just got to prove that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, follow our Twitch, yada yada. Just very basic things. Additionally... Get some tequila for that salt. Really though. Additionally, there's a link in the description and in the bio on Twitch somewhere where it will send you to this page. You can donate to us. Again, it's all tax deductible for you if you're in the US of A. Depending on how much you donate, you can unlock certain rewards like our stickers, Epic Collab t-shirt, or this epic sweater I got on right here, and it has the Rootkit logo on the back. All donations are being matched 1-for-1 for the first 10,000 donations. On top of that, we have goals to meet along the way, like 24 hours straight streaming, shaving my head here live on stream, and shaving my beard, which no one wants to see, so we don't need to get that one. Alright, we don't need to get that one. Alright, sweet. Did you get more coffee? No, I just got like the whole thing memorized, so I can just breeze right through it quickly now. Alright, so I didn't see any questions come through while we were on break, so let's go ahead and chug along here. Also, if I didn't mention, I am always in that events chat over in the Discord, so if you are a premium Discord premium member or a what do you call it? Oh shit. Oh my, thanks for that donation, man. Alright, sorry. I'll do like something weirder this time, alright? We've done a lot of different dancing. We did twerking on one of them, alright? Yeah, we'll do that little slow jam right there. Just for you. Thank you so much for the donation, Evox. You scared the shit out of me. It was just all super loud all of a sudden. Oh my god. Alright, that's what I'm talking about. That keeps the lights on, alright? Because doing things for free is not cheap. Alright, it's not like we're making money on YouTube because we haven't hit monetary status yet. Hopefully soon. But, alrighty, let's continue on. Alright, let's continue on, shall we? So, what are we doing right now? Look at that. All those donations, they just mess with my brain, man. It's hard to compute. Alright, let us see here. Let me double check the chat, stall a little bit so I can get my thoughts here together. We have our game. It runs, press 0, auto fighting. Weapons are in here. Sweet. Alright, we have weapons in here. So, I guess the next thing for us to do would be consult our notes, right? Let's see. Weapons, done. Alright, we got weapons. They are done. Combat. Lots of gore. Debatable right now. What is done? Evan says, you bet. Thanks, bro. Thanks. Do you feel guilty? Is that why you did the donation? You feel guilty because you won the twice in a row? The giveaways? If you are, it's okay. I'll take your guilt, alright? I'll take your guilt. We need something. We need some cash to keep the lights on here. Alright, so, we don't have the scoring system. He said 3 times. Wait, you won 3 times? What the hell? What's everyone else doing? Why aren't you guys can't let them just clean sweep everyone like that. What is this? It's 3 times, my god. He's hacking the system. It's rigged. All right, let's move on here. So I would say maybe looting would be next, right? Because we can fight the enemy. We have weapons. We're pretty much ready for loot drops, right? That would be pretty good. And we need a way to loot things. I've made 3 emails. I should win this upcoming one. At one time, someone like made a bunch of fake emails and then did the referral link to all the fake emails to make a super long list. They didn't end up winning too, which was the funniest part. They had a lot of points. I think Jimbo won that one. But like they had like I think like 60% of the points were just for them. It was just funny. But let's continue on here. So I think our next task here, because again we take everything one bit at a time, right? One bit at a time. All right. So let's take the next bit would be dropping loot. All right, dropping loot. So let's think about it. When do things drop loot? All right, they drop loot when they die, right? When they die. So that might be a good time to then do this type of logic. So we already have the concept of is alive, all right? Is alive. So, and we have a concept of inventories. So I think the easiest thing would be probably like, you know, if there's a goblin per se, which would be a mob, its inventory would have things inside of it. And if it's dead, then we are allowed to loot it, take things from its inventory, right? Makes sense to me, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Now, the tracking of when you're able to loot them, when you're able to loot and defile their dead bodies is on you. All right. Again, this is like a lot of things in programming. It just depends on how you want to go about it. We're going to have the logic of not allowing to mess with dead bodies until after you kill it here in our main. All right. So we're going to put that logic in the main, but you could add it to the class or at other parts in your code here. It's totally up to you, but we're going to do that in the main. So if we're going to do looting of the dead body here in the main, that means we still need to modify mobs to have an inventory. All right. So that would be the first step. So let's just do one step at a time, shall we? They need an inventory. So we already have our init here. We have super. So it's just getting everything that's inside of fightable inside of its init. So right after that, we'll go ahead and do our self.inventory, and we'll have that equal to inventory. So we'll generate them a brand new inventory. So now that we are doing that, our mobs now have inventories. Cool. The next step would be, let's just add something to their inventory that we can loot. All right. Let's not, you know, one bit at a time. Let's not make it super complicated. If we're super overwhelmed about things, let's just do something simple. Let's pre-pack the same one item in their inventory at all times. All right. Let's just do that for now. And then when they die, let's spend the rest of our time in main making that logic of looting their dead bodies. All right. So we already have a rusty sword here. So I'm just going to copy this rusty sword. I'm going to put that in their inventory. So by default, they're just going to have a rusty sword in their inventory. All right. We've completed our mob logic here. It's very basic. All right. Very basic, which means we have to revisit this later on because I'm pretty sure we don't want just rusty swords to be dropping. So let's go to our main. Now we have our fighting loop that goes on. Now this will keep going on until either we or the goblin is dead. So we don't want to put this logic inside of our while loop. Why? Because this is fighting. we don't want to loot a dead body during the fighting scene. We want to loot it after the fight is over, right? After the fight is over. So it's going to be best for us to put it outside the while loop, all right? Additionally, this will avoid any issues of, since we're going to be, you know, checking if the goblin is dead right here. So we'll do if goblin, let me go and type is goblin is alive. And we want him to be dead. So let's get the reverse of that. So if he's dead, then this logic will run below. All right. If he is dead, then the logic here below will run. What's up, man? Well, I don't know how to say your name. Jen. All right. So the reason why we wouldn't want to put this in here, which I saw some of you guys doing that, and it might work. It might work fine for you guys. It might not work though. It's a consistency thing. You don't want to really put things in here in regards to, since this loop will end when the goblin is dead, this may or may not actually execute. You can't guarantee it at all times because you may do other logic here that may disrupt it, blah, blah. It would be best if we do it outside the while loop, because when this while loop is done, we're going to hit this next code below it next, because again, we read from top down. We just want to make sure if we leave the while loop, and we only want to do this if we are still alive and the goblin is dead. So it might even be better if we also do this only if the player is still alive. So player is still alive and the goblin is not alive. All right. Why should we add the player in here? Well, technically, there is the possibility right now with our logic, because our logic isn't foolproof right now. So right now with our logic, it is possible that the player and the goblin are both dead at the same time. So we would have to add this so that way they are both, you can only loot the dead body if you are alive and the goblin is dead. How do we know there's the possibility of both of us being dead at the same time? Well, if you attack the goblin and its health goes down to 0, the next step right here is the goblin's going to attack you. So a dead goblin is going to attack you and you are going to take damage, and then you could end up as 0. So to stop this, it would be best if you have checks in here, like if, you know, goblin is dead, end the loop. All right, we'll mess with that stuff a little bit later. Let's just move forward, because again, we're just focusing on our drop tables right now, or our drop loot. So we just want to focus on doing that right now. All right, let us continue forward. Genghis John, like Genghis Khan. I like it. I like it. All right. So if the goblin's dead and we're still alive, we want to go ahead. This is where we will allow for looting, right? This is where we'll allow for looting. This is where our looting logic is going to go. So effectively, what we're going to do is we're going to, we want to look at the goblin's inventory. Inventory.contains. All right, this will give us a list of everything that's in the goblin's inventory. All right, we kind of want to display this and see it, and then we want to be able to select one of the items inside of it, which we are able to. All right, we're able to do this. How are we able to do this? Well, we do have that menu thing that we made from before. All right, so we could utilize this to do what we to display a menu. So let's go ahead about reusing this code. So let's go ahead and steal our code here for making a new menu object, and let's say this is going to be our loot menu equals a brand new menu. All right, our loot menu equals a brand new menu. On this menu, we can add new items. All right, we can do loot dot or loot menu dot, and then there's add menu item. So we can add items to our menu here, and it's going to require some text and some type of function that we run. Right, some type of function that we run. So let's go ahead and continue on here. We want to add menu items for every piece of loot that they have, right? For every piece of loot that they have. So since it's a list, we want to add every item in the list to our menu. So how can we do that? How can we add every item in the list to our menu? Well, we can utilize that for loop, right? This is where the for loop comes in very handy again. So for every item in the goblin.inventory.contains, right? So for every item that's in the goblin's inventory, we want to grab that, and then we want to do our loot menu dot add menu item, and we want to add that item to the item menu. We require to pass in a function. Again, what does this function do? Well, if this menu item is selected, then this function will execute. All right, this function will execute. It will run. What function, if we select an item here, what function do we want to run? Do we want to execute? Well, we want to run the, you guessed it, we want to run the take function from the inventory system. So goblin.inventory.takeout. Whoops. Takeout. We want to run this function. All right. We don't add the parentheses here because we don't want to run it right now. If we select this item, we want to run it. Additionally, we need to know which item we should be selecting. All right, because it's going to be a list. Right now, it's simple because there's only one item in the inventory. We hard coded that, but we may change that later on. So how can we select which item we want to take out? Well, we have this params section that we made here too. That's optional. Before, when we were utilizing it with the print system, with print, we were passing it some string to print out. But now instead, we can pass it a integer value so it knows which item in the list it should be taking out. So to figure out what the index is of this item, you're right, good old enumerate. All right, so let's add enumerate here. Enumerate here. So now we're going to get the index and the item, and we can put index right here. So the index will be put inside of takeout when we select this from our menu. Sweet. So now we're generating our menu with all of the loot that's a part of the goblin. All right. Next, we want to see the menu. So let's go ahead and do our loot menu dot display menu. So now we can see the menu get displayed. And then this is where we're going to get our user input equals input. And we'll just say select. And then when they select something, we're going to do our loot menu dot run item. And then we'll do user input right here. And then it will execute the item that they want to run, that they want to do. This will work. There is a bug in it right now that we'll have to go fix, but I want to run this and show this off and take any questions before we continue forward with fixing that bug. Thanks. I have a, what is it? More of a networking. Sorry, there's a lot in the chat here. A little bit of Python knowledge. First interview today, system analyst job. More of a networking guy. Epic. Bit of AWS experience, and I think that's helped. Yes, AWS is very good. It's very good. Most people don't have AWS experience because there's no reason for them to know AWS. But you know what will help out even more? If you get the comp sci cert. All right, if you get our comp sci cert, which we're teaching everything you need to know in order to get our comp sci cert right now. So you joined perfect time. All right, so let's go ahead and run this real quick. So we have our game playing in our menu here. Let's go ahead and start our game. So when we run our game. We'll see we get a beautiful, beautiful error here. All right, so let's go ahead and do some debugging. The whole error you should analyze, but it's best if you always start at the very bottom here. Usually the bottom part will tell you the answer, all right? The bottom part will tell you the answer, but sometimes you'll have to look further and further up above. It says there's an issue with our init on inventory. It takes one positional argument, but we gave it two, right? So we did something wrong with our inventory system. Specifically, right here in self.inventory. So let's go ahead and look at this, and it kind of makes sense. Wait, self.inventory. Oh, this was for right here. All right, this makes sense because we're supposed to use add when we want to add things to the inventory. So let's remove that right there. And then let's say self.inventory.add. And then we can add our weapon right here. Very small bug, right? Very small bug. We just didn't do things in the right order. If you're confused about the order, you can refer to it right here because we wrote it out earlier. So let's go ahead and run this again. Whoops, wrong one. All right, so we can go ahead and start our game here. We have another bug. I didn't anticipate this one, all right? This one threw me off for a second. So, as you see here, we are now playing the game. Player attacked with the rusty sword, all right? And we're then going straight to our menu. So it seems like there's a couple bugs going on here. So let's go ahead and kind of see what's happening right here. Because it should have said that we were attacking right here. So it makes it seem, no, it does say player attacked. Okay. Oh, we killed a goblin. Oh, this stuff is right here. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so we killed the goblin. We didn't see that we killed a goblin because we put our if statement above our little printouts here, but we did kill the goblin. Once we killed the goblin, we started doing our looting. That's why we're in this menu right here. As you'll see, this printout is working. This isn't the name of the item that we wanted though. This isn't the name of the item we wanted. The name of the item we wanted was item. So what's going on here? What's wrong? What is happening? Great question. If we look right here, take a look, all right, with your special eyes. We see here that we have a weapon object. It says fightable.weapon. Why does it say fightable.weapon? Well, our goblin here is a part of the fightable parent class, right? But it's a weapon, right? It's a weapon object. That's the key word. It's a weapon object. We're seeing the pointer for the weapon object. This is not the name. So if we're confused, it means that this right here, what we're trying to print out is the weapon itself. But if you look at our weapon, so let's go back to our weapon. If we want to print the name, we can't just say the weapon itself. We have to say weapon.name, right? Weapon.name. So that's the missing part here. Even though we don't get an error, there's an error going on. Not at all times will your errors produce actual errors. It may look like something like this. The computer is a very dumb system. It will do exactly what you ask it. No questions asked. It simply did exactly what we asked it here. We just asked it the wrong things. It's our fault, all right? Not the computer's fault, all right? It's our fault because we asked it to do the wrong thing. So how do we fix this? Very simple. This is a weapon. Item currently is the weapon. So we're just gonna do our .name. And now this will work. Again, this won't give us the pretty printout because it doesn't know this is going to be a weapon. So the way to get the pretty printout, if you do a dot here, is you can use typing again. So if you go here to item and do : weapon, this will not work because we're doing our import and it's going to be a part of fightable. So we got to do fightable dot weapon. Please work and don't make me look like a fool. Can you not do typing here? What's going on? Okay, maybe you can't do typing here. Thought you could. Regardless, we can just do dot name right here and it will work. All right, even though nothing shows up, it's going to work. So let's go ahead and run this and see what happens now. Let me go ahead and end this. Control C, remember, Control C to end, forcefully end stuff. Let's go ahead and start our game again. Now we can see that our name shows up properly. All right, our name shows up properly. We've made it. We made the drop system. All right, where we can now collect loot. Kind of can collect loot. So player attacked with a rusty sword. We killed it. The kill text didn't show up because we have our if statement here just in the wrong place. But we can see the rusty sword that's attached to the goblin is displaying. It's showing off. We can press 0 to select it and press enter. And we can see that our kill message went off successfully. We've picked it up. Not really. That's the bug that's going on right now. But we've picked it up. And now we've killed another goblin. And when we kill the other goblin, it also drops a sword. And we could pick up that sword. We could pick up this sword. And then we die. So we have a system now where, let me go ahead and move this. All right, let me move this right here and let's rerun this real quick. So I can pick it up. So now you can see that we attack with our rusty sword. We killed the goblin. We have 10 health left over and we can loot the body and grab a sword. All right. So super cool. It's working. Even though there's an issue though right now, and what that issue is let's see if we print out our inventory. So right below this, right below our whole if statement, let's print out our personal inventory, right? So let's do print players inventory, and then right below that, let's do a for loop for item in player dot inventory dot contains, and then we're going to do a print of our item. And right now our inventory only no, we'll just do print item. All right, we'll just do print item. Yeah, we'll do this. So this will print items that we have in our inventory. It may not print the name of those items right now, like the actual name. We might get the weird pointer name, but it will print the items. Right? It will print the items if we have anything in our inventory. Remember, our rusty sword is not in our inventory. It's in our primary weapon slot, which is not a part of our inventory. So if we start this game and I want to pick up this rusty sword and I press 0, you'll see right here that the player's inventory doesn't print out any items, because even though we picked it up, it's not in our inventory. Why? Because we picked it up here, but we never stored it in our inventory. But there's a bigger issue than that, right? There's a bigger issue than that. And we'll see it here if we try to add this to our inventory. Let me go and check chat here real quick. All right, sweet. So to add stuff to our inventory, we can do player.inventory, because we have that inventory system and we can add things to it. And whatever is in here, we can add to our inventory. So on our loot menu, when we select some loot, we should be adding it to our inventory, right? Because it's running this takeout command. So let's go ahead and add this into add, because we are doing takeout, and takeout's supposed to return what we're taking out, right? Well, let's see. Let's run this. And all right, it's Whoops, I'm gonna cancel the last one, clear. Let's run it. And you can see, we'll start the game. We want to take out the sword. We'll press 0. And interesting. Our player's inventory did add something to it, but it's none. It added none to it. That is a little weird. That's not what we wanted. Why do we have none in our inventory? Why does it say that now? All great questions. All great questions. I'll give you half the answer, and the other half will be your challenge to solve for the next lesson. So, what's going on here? Well, takeout does work, and we can see right here that takeout will return something to us. We didn't do typing, so since we didn't do typing, it just says any. Any means it could be anything, but I'm going to give you something. If we hover over run item here, it says that it's always going to give us none as a return. It's never going to give us anything. That's kind of an issue. All right, so even though we're running this correctly, we're taking something out of the goblin's inventory correctly, run item isn't returning what we took out. All right, it's not returning what we took out. So your guys's mission is you need to modify the run item function in order to allow it to return stuff. And when it returns stuff, you need to add it to the player's inventory. One extra thing, if the returned item is of type none, right? If it's of type none, then don't add none to the inventory, right? Do not add none to the inventory. That is the mission. So again, to repeat, you need to modify run item to return, right? To return whatever value the function that you're giving it returns. And then add it to the player's inventory. But when you're adding stuff to the player's inventory, you shouldn't add it to the player's inventory if its value is none. All right? So when we ran this game, you can see we got a none value. We should not be adding none values to the inventory. So do not add none values to the inventory. You should ignore those. That can most likely be solved with you're right, logic. How do we do logic? With the if statement. That's correct. All right. Any questions on that before we conclude today's stream? This shouldn't be too difficult of a task. It's only going to require 1, 2, 3 lines of code. You just got to figure out where those are. It may be more for you. It won't be less. It may be more for you, but that's fine. But the point is, it's not that big of a change. It's just you just got to think about it. All right. I know you guys can do this. All right. I know you guys can do this. Broke something along the way, don't worry. You can, everything is being recorded on the YouTubes, so you can go back and rewatch. Additionally, if you are in the if you are a Patreon or Discord premium member, we'll have this code posted with documentation so you can utilize it. Are there any podcasts or books you recommend as supplemental material? Great question. No. So the only supplemental material that we currently recommend is if you go to our certs and then you click on view requirements. If you scroll to the bottom here, we have a list of free sites that you can use. So W3 Schools and Free Code Camp is on there. Additionally, there's YouTube channels, so Free Code Camp's channel, the New Boston's channel, and a bunch of other channels. Some of this is programming oriented, some of it is not programming oriented, and it's more so for the other concepts like basic math, computers internals, etc., etc. So pretty much all these channels will get you covered though. These are all free. These are all free. If you want to cough up money, we have mixed and paid resources here. So your mixed will be Udemy, Codecademy, and edX. To be honest, Udemy and edX aren't that good. They're not that good. They're there though. You can utilize them. Codecademy is, I think, okay. It's pretty decent. It's kind of dry though. It's pretty bland. It's kind of hard to get through some of their stuff. Not because it's not good. It's just not very interesting. So you can utilize them. And then of course there's paid. We don't have our paid option available right now. And then there's going to be Lynda. Lynda's pretty good. I used a lot of Lynda when I first was learning things. Mostly because it was the primary site for learning content. Yeah, they did just get bought by LinkedIn. But now there's other stuff out there. I haven't used Lynda in a while, so I don't know how its quality has. I would imagine it's stayed high and maybe gotten better because of the acquisition with LinkedIn, but you never know. Sometimes it just goes to shit. Alrighty. Yeah, our new resource is going to be Project 26. It is going to be free out of the box. The supplemental material you can get along with it is going to be paid, but the actual content itself is going to be free. All right, what is the content going to be? It's pretty much going to be like everything I'm talking about here, and the supplementals would be already written out code with documentation. Pretty much exactly what we're doing right now. All right, pretty much exactly what we're doing right now. Alrighty. Any other questions? Everyone clear on the mission here? I believe in y'all. All right, I believe in y'all. If you are completing these relatively quickly and you aren't finding them very challenging, your extra challenge would be remake all of this from scratch. Remake all of this from scratch. Before you remake this, remake the word guessing game. Once you remake the word guessing game from scratch, then remake the epic game. Was the epic game a thing? I can't remember. This was more an explanation of classes. So remake this from scratch, right? Remake this from scratch. If you're, live watching right now, if by the end of the 100 days of rootkit, you still don't feel 100% like you're ready to take on the exam, then this is still applicable to you. After the 100 days of rootkit event, if you're watching through these, or if you've made some of these, which you are making them right now with us, to prep for it, remake these things. Remake what we're showing you. Remake it. It may be very close to what is potentially given to you as tests. All right, for the practical. It could be. It could not be. I don't know. Maybe it is. Wink, wink. All right. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. All right. Remake these. Make them from scratch. If you can make this stuff from scratch, then you'll be golden. All right. We require, some of the rubrics are up and available. Specifically, if you're using Python, go check our Python rubric. If you want to know how we would grade or get insight of how we would grade your practical. Because I know some of you guys are really, really worried about this stuff. All right. So if you want to know, if you are going to look, the comp sci cert can be done in any language. It does not need to be done in Python. We're teaching Python, but if you know another language or you like another language, you can use another language. You are required to utilize 2 languages though when you program in the practical. So if you want to see how we would go about programming your language in particular, we only have these 3 up. We know how we'd grade all of them. You can pretty much imply how we would grade the other ones by just looking at any of these rubrics. But you can see right here, this is exactly how we would grade it, and this is exactly how everything is weighted. Your README. Is the documentation easy to understand? All right. And just various other things with documentation. Grammar, all right? Making sure your grammar is correct. If you're like me, you're just going to accept that you're going to lose points on this one, all right? All right, it's okay. You don't need to get it perfect. You just need to get 70%, all right? So if you're like me, you're just like, yeah, we're taking the L on all these. Your formatting, all right? We're teaching PEP 8 standard, so you should adhere to it, all right? You got to adhere to some type of standard. So we enforce and imply PEP 8. We've talked about it. We showed a little bit of how you can use the code styles program. We'll talk about it more as we move forward, all right? Everything we're doing right now is pretty much PEP 8, so don't worry too much about it. Additionally, if you just run the code styles program, it will tell you what you need to fix in order to make it PEP 8, all right? Then you auto get 2%. Your variables and functions names are named properly, all right? So you're not naming things as X, Y, Z, and whatever stupid name, all right? You're naming them like weapon. You're naming them like damage, all right? Normal, proper names. Comments, your classes, modules, files are named appropriately. Again, it's just common sense naming, right? If you have a file that contains all of your weapons and your weapon logic, the file should probably be called weapons or something along the term of weapons, all right? There's nothing tricking you here, right? These are just very basic. You would be surprised, all right? That's all I gotta say. You'd be very surprised. You think this would be like normal, but trust me, developers will do some autistic things like just not name their file appropriately at all, or they'll just utilize XYZ and be making the matrix in their language, and then they'll name their files just weird things, and then you're going to be reading it afterwards and you're like, what are you even doing, man? Like, stop snorting all the cocaine. Like, have you taken your meds today? And then outside code cited. This doesn't have to do with Stack Overflow and other code that you copy and paste. This is more so if you're using open source content. This is a legal requirement for applications. So if you're using library, you've not used anything so far. So just so you know, all right, don't worry about this right now. It's if you're pip installing external libraries, you gotta let the world know that you're using this person's code, all right? Version control, this is going to be Git, all your Git stuff. Your architecture, so were you dry or not, and were you making your code effective? Can I be lazy with your code? All right, is it modular? That's going to be utilizing your classes properly, all right? And then various other execution stuff. So did it run? You got to turn in something that works. If I type in main.py or Python space main.py and I press enter and it does not run immediately, you're most likely not going to pass, all right? Because you're not going to get pretty much any of these points. Let us see here. And yeah, did you do the things we told you to do and execute in a timely manner? So you need to make your code semi-efficient. So if I'm playing an RPG game and it takes 10 seconds between every one of my like commands for it to then like calculate and then allow me to do another like swing or attack or pick up loot, your game's unplayable. No gamer will ever want to play your game if it lags a bunch. Same thing for us. I'm not saying that your what you get is going to be a game that you have to program out, because it might not be a game that you have to program out. Regardless, it shouldn't be lagging, right? It should not be lagging. All right. Switch to Fightable real quick and put them side by side. There you go. You literally have supporter chat access. I'm going to literally give you these. All right. All right. I don't see any other questions right now, so I think that we're gonna call that good for today's stream. Tomorrow we'll show the answer, and we'll continue on and hopefully finish up our game tomorrow. And that way, we'll see if we finish our game tomorrow. If not, we'll finish it up on Friday. And then Saturday, we are going to start with programming in C. All right. We're going to program in C. We're going to enter into a brand new language. All right. Brand new language. All right. I will see you guys on the next one tomorrow.